Super Rugby Power Rankings, folks, for round number 8. I'm still on the floor. I'm still on holiday mode, back in New Zealand in a couple of weeks, but still been following the Super Rugby. There are only 4 games on for round 8 with a few teams on the bye. I managed to catch 3 in full for a change, and the highlights of the Force and Tars game. But yeah, we'll go through the rankings pretty quick, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on how you would have them if you were doing the rankings on your end. Number 12. There can only be Moana, Pasifika. They played in Apia for a change. The timing of the game was a bit of an unusual one. I'm assuming it was for kind of broadcast reasons, because it seemed to be kind of like a Friday afternoon, early evening. But yeah, it didn't give people that much of a chance to get there. I mean, the crowd was certainly better than the one that they're getting at Mount Smart right now, so that's encouraging. They scored some nice tries. They scored 4 of them. It was a competitive game for a while until the Reds pulled away with it. So 40 points to 28. Moana Pasifika go down. Their record is none from 8. So it's kind of hard to put them anywhere else. 11th and dropping the Western Force. They lost to the Waratahs. And the Force haven't won since, I think, round 3. So their recent record, and like that's how the power rankings work, is not great. So they've dropped to the second from bottom spot. I mean, Kiwi scored a nice try, but it's one of those ones where, like, how excited do you get when your team loses by 20 points? They lost to the Tars, and the Tars have only got 2 wins now themselves. So, yeah, tough one for the Force guys, down 3 spots. The Rebels I've got in 10th, and they were on the bye, so they've actually gone up. So by not playing and not suffering a loss, they have kind of leapfrogged the Force. So in terms of their most recent game record, a bye is better than a loss, and the Rebels go up. The Drua I've got in 9th, and remember on my old whiteboard, that would be the bottom row, because we're doing kind of rows of 4. So the Drua's record is 3 and 4. To be honest, I feel like it's a little bit harsh, because they gave the Brumbies a pretty good go. That game was competitive for a long period. Ravovo is just still an absolute beast, but ultimately it's 43-28. So it's maybe the kind of result you expected going into the game, even if at times it looked like the Drua might be going to do something crazy. But yeah, down 2 spots for them. 3 and 4 is the record. But man, at home, they're a different beast, eh? They might have got up over the Brumbies if they'd been in Fiji. But anyway, that was the game. The team that beat Moana Pasifika, the Reds, they finally get a win. They broke their wee drought, so they are up 2 spots. 40 points to 28 winners. There's a few guys kind of putting their hands up for the Reds. You know, Eddie Jones already announced that kind of initial Wallaby squad, so there's a few guys who've been left out of that squad in that Reds team who seem to be wanting to put their hands up. So, I mean, that's good motivation if nothing else. I feel like Eddie is kind of, he's a bit of a mind games guy in terms of getting players motivated. So if that's a factor, maybe it's working for the Reds. But either way, they got a much needed win. Much needed win, and they are up 2 spots. Just drop my pen on the floor. We're just doing it in one take, folks. Here we go. It's the Waratahs. The Waratahs. Now they've only got 2 wins, so it seems like a weird one to have them in 7th. But their most 2 recent weeks have been a win and a bye. So in terms of a bit of recency bias, which is kind of how the power rankings work, the Waratahs record is kind of decent. Now the buys thing will work itself out as we go through, because there's still a few teams who are a game ahead of other teams who are still to go on the bye. But again, kind of like the Reds, it was a much needed win for the Tars. But I feel like at times the Tars haven't been that far away, so they finally put a bit more of it together. From what I saw of it, remember it's only highlights. Jake Gordon and Izzy Parise seem to be absolutely cutting things up. So 36-16, much needed win. 6th spot is the old Highlanders. They were on the bye, and as were the team I've got above them, the Blues. Neither of those teams changes. Highlanders a record of 3 and 4. The Blues are 4 and 3. Both teams on the bye, kind of nothing much doing there. Another team who was on the bye was the Crusaders, but we're not going to get to them just yet, because first it was a tabletop and clash. Remember, 4th spot on my old whiteboard is still top row. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, and then Hurricanes 4th top row spot. It just looks a bit funnier on this whiteboard, but down 2 spots, so still kind of top row. Mentally visualize that. They had the Chiefs at home. It was a good chance for them to make a statement, and sadly for them, they didn't make it. They lose 33 points to 17. I mean, yeah, there's still a few good players in that Hurricane squad. Roygaard still looks like he's really putting his hand up, but yeah, the game kind of got pulled away from them at the end, didn't it? So, yeah, the Hurricanes, maybe people have been saying, are they the business? You know, have they only been beaten teams who kind of, you know, are more towards the bottom end? Well, they're not as good as the Chiefs. That much has been made clear. Speaking of the team on the bye, that was the Crusaders. The Crusaders retained third spot, so no change for them despite the fact that they were on the bye, but the Hurricanes have dropped below them. One team that's kind of leapfrogged them is the old Brumbies. The Brumbies, as I said, like the Drua gave them a good go, which is pleasing to see for the competition, but ultimately the Brumbies, you know, over the course of the 80 were too good, 43-28, given a little bit of a scare, but like good teams find a way to pull away, and that's exactly what the Brumbies did. I mean, that guy O'Donnell gets 3 tries. Like that's a legendary match performance from him right there. The crowd were absolutely loving it. So they seem to be getting a decent wee crowd in Canberra. The Waratahs seem to have a decent wee crowd. I mean, even the Hurricanes game, clearly not a sellout, but you know, big stadium, so they seem to get quite a few bums on seats. So in terms of like visually, it was maybe one of the better weeks in terms of the games getting decent attendance. But number one, it's been number one for ages, and it does not look like changing anytime soon. It's the Chiefs. Chiefs, good test for them. Man, their back three is bloody good. Narawa, Nanai Saturo, Stevenson, geez, these guys are dangerous. Ratima comes off the bench, adds some great impact. So, yeah, that was a real statement game for them. That was like a proper challenge to see where the Chiefs are out. Their coach, not in attendance because he's been crook, but didn't really miss a beat. D-Mac pulling the strings. Dangerous. The Chiefs are looking pretty clearly the favourites thus far this season, but we're only halfway through. I think we've still got about half the season to go, so yeah, we will see how things pan out. You guys let us know your thoughts. Like I said, in a couple of weeks I'll be back home, back to the old regular whiteboard, back to the 3 rows of 4 rather than the 4 rows of 3. But anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.